Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android, I recommend Spotify. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Also, Off the Floor, that's our Discord server. That's $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. You can bypass the Apple upcharge and cancel at any time. We've got a Eurobasket channel on there. Also, we'll get you ready for the season with everything else that we have. And we basically organized Twitter for you, so you don't even need to go there. So check it out. It's Off the Floor, link right here in the description. Also, PrizePicks, use the code 5. Football season has started. See a lot of you starting to play again. Use the code 5. Get your $50 to play right away if you haven't done it yet. And not only can you play NFL, but also MLB down the stretch and more. So check it out. Use the code 5, FIVE, at prizepicks.com. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to mornings. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the court to the streets. Hey, Wake County, Heat Nation, we still proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick in the 5 Reasons Sports. I got Brady Hawk. You can follow him at Brady Hawk 305. We continue getting you ready for the season. It's coming up a little bit faster than you think. Last week of September will be Media Day, usually that last Monday, and then training camp's going to be at FAU in Boca this year. We've been doing an improvement series, kind of a home improvement series. How can the Heat's existing players get better? And we're going to go next to Andrew Wiggins. And this is, we've already done Tyler Hero. Obviously, there's been some improvements with Tyler every year, even if not everybody wants to recognize it. We've also done one on Pelle Larsson, who, by the way, is just eliminated from Eurobasket in the knockout stage, but has had a very productive summer. Also, Khalil Ware, you did that one with Greg. But we're going to talk about someone now that I guess the question is going to be, once you get to your 30s, and you were the former number 1 overall pick, but you never became that player. You obviously have had utility in the league, and you contributed to a championship with Golden State. How do you actually get better, or is it just a question of how you fit better? So that's the discussion that we're going to have today. So let's talk about Andrew Wiggins. Do you think there are areas at this stage of his career that Andrew Wiggins can actually significantly improve?
Maybe significantly is a little bit tougher just because, like you said, his age, and I think the type of player he is, because when you're a player that's all around, like he's just does a lot of things good. He does a lot of things well, that it's not like he has like a specific skill that's got him in the league. He's not a specialist. So it's tough to say significant, but I definitely do think there are things that he can do a lot better. Like there are things that he can figure out to improve on. And especially, as you mentioned, I think the fit is the more important thing than like specific skills. And this type of roster is probably one that fits in much more than the one last year. I just think when we were sitting here talking about him replacing and filling the shoes of Jimmy Butler, and first of all, that was just a tough thing in itself to kind of put that type of pressure, but he's also not that type of player. He's not the guy that I think is a first or second option that you're going to go to offensively, just because of the stuff we saw last year where he could fall into the background at times. Like offensively, I think he could drift at times, and he's somebody that could kind of catch you by surprise on secondary actions, and a guy that's going to be running lineups that's just getting bucket after bucket. Like there's those moments, and he'd have quarters where he would do it, where he'd get bucket after bucket, and he'd get into that flow state where it felt like he couldn't be stopped and the jumper was falling. And then there were the other times where if that wasn't happening, he was kind of just standing around the corner at times. So the reason I bring that up is because I think this type of roster fits him a little bit better, where in most of the lineups that he's running offensively, he's going to have somebody next to him. He's going to have a Tyler next to him. He's going to have a Powell next to him, or he's going to have a Bam next to him. He's never going to be the only one of those four out there. So it makes things a little bit easier for him. And I think the role is, I know we talked about Jovic's role as kind of being one of the most important heading into this season. I actually think Wiggins' role is going to be the most interesting, just because it's one of, I know where ultimately Spo is going to end up putting Jovic, whereas Wiggins, I think, is kind of the different piece that I don't know where he's going to end up going. I don't know if he's going to end up being somebody that's in the mid post that they did with certain guys in the past where they had those type of wings. Is he going to be somebody that's just 3-and-D, that's going to be just kind of, they're kind of telling him put up 8 threes, 7 threes a game? Or is he somebody that I think they should do is just have him try to be a consistent paint touch guy? They need it. If Tyler and Powell are going to be your guys on the perimeter, they're going to need some guys other than Jovic and Davion to get into the paint, to get to the basket. And Wiggins has the capability. So I think that's what's going to tie into my thing. That's going to be the interesting improvement if it can get to the next level. But to answer your original question, like, significant feels a little tough at this stage. Like, I don't think you're going to see like a certain statistic or skill like double or jump up significantly into next season. I just think it's going to be one of those things where he maybe fits into a role a little bit better, and that one minor skill that he improves on could make the difference offensively.
So I want to backtrack for a second. Why do you think, now that you've seen him for a little bit, and obviously, he has a track record in the league, why do you think he didn't become what people thought he was going to become?
It's tough. I mean, just from seeing last year, just seeing some stuff up close, I just feel like it might be the offensive mentality in a lot of ways. Like, I just think there is that mentality that he's kind of your ultimate role player or glue guy at times. And I just don't think like the number one picks kind of have that alpha. I shouldn't have said alpha, because you're going to get on the alpha meter right now. But like have that mentality offensively where he's going to be like, I'm just going to go at you. I don't care what my field goal percentage is. I'm going to be the number one guy. And I just don't really see that. I just feel like he's somebody that's a good complementary piece. We saw that in Golden State. I think he was the ultimate complementary piece at that stage, being the defensive factor, being somebody that didn't need the ball in his hands but could still impact offensively off of Steph. And that's kind of what I think they're going to eye as kind of his main role here, other than I think they're more eyeing the Golden State Wiggins than they are the Minnesota Wiggins. Like that's kind of where I think the Heat are evaluating at this stage. So why he never got to that point, I would just say it's that part of it. It's just that having that specific factor, having that next level factor. And I think he kind of maxed out at what he is as just kind of, like I said at the beginning, he's not somebody that's good at like one thing where like, I wouldn't say Anthony Edwards, but Anthony Edwards, like coming in as a number one pick, and I'm just thinking of Minnesota, like he has the factor of like, he has those specific factors that are going to make him a superstar. Whereas Wiggins, like I said, I just think he's good at a lot of things. I think he just kind of checks a lot of boxes across the board when you're talking about him as a basketball player, and it's just not at that like next superstar level where he's going to just consistently drop 30.
It's just interesting because I remember what was going on when he was going to be available in the draft, and Maple Jordan, and obviously he was at Kansas at the time, and it was a huge recruitment battle. And I don't know, then I saw him because I actually traveled with him a little bit his first year in Minnesota. I was doing a piece on him for Bleacher Report, and it just struck me how sort of low key he was. And I was thinking, I said, wow, that doesn't remind me of LeBron. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he was being compared in some ways to LeBron. Like, this was the next. And also, there was the tie to LeBron, too, because Clutch had gotten involved with him or wanted to get involved with him. And I remember Wiggins actually came to the locker room in Toronto when LeBron was there, prior to when Wiggins was still in college, I think, but we were there with the Heat. I forgot what year that was, prior to 2010. So, or in 2010 season. So it's just interesting because I guess Wiggins got drafted in 2014. My apologies, because that was after LeBron went back to Cleveland. So yeah, it was during that period of time we were up there with the big three, and Wiggins was like a sensation. And I don't know. At first time I saw him on the court, I said, I don't see the physicality here for him to be a superstar. Like, he has some skills, there's no question about that, but sort of physicality and mentality, which I think you're hitting on a little bit there. I didn't think we're there to be a superstar. I mean, Anthony Edwards has both, right? So and yet the funny thing about it is when Anthony Edwards came out, it was, well, he doesn't really like basketball. That was what was said about Anthony Edwards when he came out of Georgia, because he said a couple things that made people think that he didn't, and maybe he was just trolling everybody because that's sort of Ant. But I think we've accepted kind of the the bracket that Wiggins is in now. And now the question is, can they get him to the top end of that? I think that's pretty much where we are. All right, before we go anywhere further though, it's the weekend. We know that some of you may head out tonight as we're speaking here. This is a Saturday night. You can check them out. You can check this out before you do it. Trust me, you're going to want to do this. You will feel much better the next day because we know you can get a little bit out of control, especially you got some football this weekend, other things to watch. Your team's not winning, and you just you want to escape a little bit. So I got to tell you about this game-changing product that I use before a night out with drinks. It's called pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's called Zbiotics. It's the Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink, the first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Fall right around the corner. That means it's time to raise a glass to your favorite team, whether you're tailgating, enjoying a college game day, or watching Sunday's action on that fancy new TV. Don't forget Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. Drink a pre-alcohol before drinking and enjoy great days after celebrating all season long. Go to Zbiotics.com/on the floor. That's on the floor to learn more and get 15% off your next order. Or your first order, when you use on the floor checkout. Zbiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to Zbiotics.com/on the floor and use the code on the floor at checkout for 15% off. Okay, so we've talked about different lineups that they can use, and one lineup I want to get into with you a little bit, and where he might fit in is this possible closing lineup where maybe he ends up at the 4 with Davion and with Norm Powell and with Tyler and with Bam. What would his responsibilities be in that particular lineup?
Honestly, it probably fits him a little bit better, I think, at this stage, just because I think defensively, we don't have any worries. I mean, he can guard up, he can guard down. Even then, you look at a guy that it seems a little bit skinnier, it seems like he wouldn't be able to guard up, but he actually is pretty strong, and defensively, he's been able to hold up. He was just good on that end last year anyway. So offensively, I think it fits a little bit more just because that when he's playing, and we're talking about positions here, and people aren't going to like it, but when he's playing the 4, it's almost like he's going to have the ball in his hands less. And it's not because of the position. It's because of who's on the floor with it. It's because if you have Davion, Tyler, and Powell on the floor, and Bam's obviously going to be a hub at late in games, Wiggins is just going to become a primary spot-up guy. And I think that is what he's going to be in a lot of these situations late in the games. And that's why I'm interested to see what his spot-up 3 looks like consistently, because that's going to kind of be the swing factor. It was the swing factor last year. I mean, when we were talking positively about Wiggins at certain points of the season last year, it was when the shot was just looking really good. It was some real hot pockets on his catch and shoot threes last year. So if he could find that type of stuff, I think he's definitely going to play, because if you can have a 3, Spo liked going to Haywood closing lineups over the past few years because he wanted a 3-and-D guy. You get that plus more with Wiggins. Like, you get the defensive stuff, you get the 3 ball, but you get all the extracurricular stuff that he could tap into when needed. 100% Spo is going to lean into in late in games. So that lineup specifically, and I do think there's scenarios where we've talked about it where it might even be Tyler, Powell, Wiggins, Jovic, Bam. Like, there's different ones they can get into where it becomes a little bit different. And even with that one, the reason I bring that up is because Jovic would still be a guy that has the ball in his hands, bring the ball up the floor at times, and then he can play spot up. But I think Wiggins' role is going to be pretty consistent. It's going to be something that I think we know what it's going to be. Ultimately, it's going to be kind of the secondary action guy. And I guess I'll get right into it, because I think what we were going to get into is the improvement thing. The thing I think it needs to be improved on, like, to take the jump, and it's funny because I was looking at it, this number specifically, the free throw shooting, as it was its highest mark this past season with Miami since, I think, 2019, 2020 for Wiggins. So it did actually have a decent jump in general. Now, the reason I said it wasn't going to be significant, because I don't think he's going to go from 4.5 free throw attempts to 6, or like, he's not going to like make a jump. But I think it's more about the consistency of getting to the line. You used the word physicality. I think that's a good one, because there were times where I felt like he could have filled the role of a guy like Jimmy of getting to the line, maybe not at the same level, but I think of the spots on the floor that he occupies, But Wiggins was somebody, instead of taking that extra contact, he kind of would throw like a float shot or a push shot instead over the top, which he has good touch in that range. I'll give him that. Like, he is somebody that had really good touch around the rim. But I would just like to see him kind of push the physicality meter like a touch higher, gets the line a little bit more. If he is somebody that's going to be working off those wings and baselines, off kickouts and the overreaction, Tyler and Powell, you're going to need somebody that's just going to go at the basket. That's just going to fly down the lane and try to draw some contact. So it's tough as well, because I remember we were talking at the beginning, his age and him getting older. It's not like usually players don't start getting to the line more, as I feel like, as they get older. Usually they start leaning into the three-point shooting. But this guy he's not 50 years old. Like, he's old on the meter of Miami's roster. He's not somebody that's legitimately old. So I think he is somebody that could tap into this a little bit more. And when I think about just like something he can do to improve this upcoming season's team, it's that. If he could do that, I think it unlocks a lot they could do offensively.
Well, I just saw that, one of these Bleacher Report, CBS Sports, Hoops Hype, they do all these rankings. They had him ranked, I think, as the 26th best small forward in the league. And again, we're talking about him some in the context of power forward. I would anticipate that he could be better than that. I don't, again, I think we have, it's funny for a player who was talked about to have such a high ceiling, that now with Wiggins, I talk about more him in terms of his floor. Right? He's not gonna. I know everybody hurt them in the series against Cleveland. I get it. Everybody was pretty much bad. But over the course of a season, Wiggins is not a guy who I think is going to consistently hurt you. You're not going to get run out of the building in certain matchups with him. But also, I think we're past the point of expecting him to impose his will consistently. Like you said, I think the free throw shooting needs to, because look, they need that, okay? And we've talked about others who can do that. Maybe Jovic can get the line a little bit more. Bam gets the line a little more. Tyler, I think that's capped to a certain degree, but you've discussed that a lot. Larson, if he plays, has shown the ability to get to the line. It's not something Powell does a ton of, although he can a little bit. Like, they've got a lot of guys who can get him like 3-4 free throw attempts per game. They don't have the Jimmy who's going to get him a ton of them. But we've also seen, like you said, when Wiggins gets into rhythm with that jumper, and it's funny with the jumper because it is such a line drive jumper that he reminds me a lot of, in terms of what his role could be for the Heat, of Luol Deng. And when they picked up Luol Deng, and this is why I said playing him at the 4, so to speak, Deng really took off that one season, 2015-16, after Chris Bosh, became ill again, and they had to go to a different kind of lineup, and they played. Deng played better, and they played better with Deng at the 4, and I could see that happening a little bit now. I feel like if they go to that group, which I think they may many times to close, where Davion's kind of your point of attack defender, Wiggins is guarding the best wing, but from the 4 spot, and they kind of figure out offensively again how Wiggins can unlock Powell and Hero in those areas, then I think they might have something there. I'll just ask you this, because I think he's going to be here through the course of the season. He could be traded. You never know. I mean, this isn't the last year of his contract. He's going to have one more after this. There may be interest in him from contenders, so to speak, at the deadline, although I don't anticipate there'll be a ton of it. They did talk about moving him this offseason, then they backed off from it. The Phoenix situation with Durant was really the prominent one, but again, they didn't want his contract, didn't want Rozier's contract. Do you see him as a player who would make enough of an impression over the next couple of years that he could be a player who finishes here, but maybe not the same contractual value? Or do you think we're there? It's kind of a bridge situation for him at this point.
To be honest, it does feel like a bridge situation. This doesn't feel like a long-term plan. This just feels like it felt like the most obvious filler when they were talking about the Jimmy trade and who they could end up getting that could be a bridge for somebody that they could use now and move forward with a little bit. It wasn't like picking one end of it or not. Like, they just got somebody in the mix. And I think he fits well, but I don't think they're against moving him. I think we saw that this offseason when we were discussing certain things. I think there's not like a glue to him. There's not something that they think they're moving over long term. So that part of it's interesting, just because it could go either way with me, just with Spo liking him, because I really do believe Spo likes him. Like, I saw last year, the guys that we talk about, like Tyler, where he would like hinder some of the shots he would take, or he's going to do the same thing with Powell and like taking more threes and limiting things. Bam, he's done it before with whether it was the three ball or this. Wiggins was one of the few players I've seen over the last few years where Spo did not limit shot attempts, like did not limit where he wanted him on the floor. Like it got to a point last year where they were allowing Wiggins to take, you mentioned the line drive jumper, and the reason I think of it, the first thing I think of is those mid-range line drive jumpers where he would kind of lean into those like sidestep that he got really good with, where he'd like sidestep to the right and it felt automatic. It got to a point where they were like, okay, we'll take whatever we can get from Wiggins offensively. Like if he's willing to be aggressive from this spot of the floor, go be aggressive from this spot of the floor, because that can jumpstart maybe something else for him offensively to be aggressive. So he was one of the few players I've just seen them like let off the leash and just let him do him. And I do think that's going to continue next year. Like they're going to want to, you don't want to limit Wiggins. You don't want to put him in a box because he's not going to jump out of the box. Like he's going to stay in that box consistently. So yeah, I still think this was a bridge thing, but I do think it's something where Spo is not viewing it like that. Like Spo does, I think, value Wiggins. I think Spo sees the potential in Wiggins and what he could do right now. So we'll see what the fit looks like. We keep coming back to the fit, but it really does come to that. Even though this isn't in the long-term scope, I think in the short-term scope matters, like with Wiggins. I really do. Like the short-term thing and his fit with this roster and how he looks with Tyler and how he looks with Powell and how they value the extension stuff, all fits into this. Because if Wiggins plays well with some of these guys, I think they'll look at him a little bit differently.
All right. One thing I do want to mention here before we go, Brady now as well, I'm going to be writing for on SI with Miami Heat page for Sports Illustrated. So look for that content. That should start up sometime next week. A bunch of folks from our crew are going to be doing so. But this way you're going to get some written content along with obviously what you're getting on the podcast. You're still stuck with me. I know people were excited that you were escaping my claws here, but no, neither you nor Alex, both of you, but get in the basement, start writing, start podcasting. Anyway, we're all going to be giving you as much Heat content as possible this year. Obviously, we think we'll give you more than anybody else with all the outlets that we have to do so. So appreciate you following, appreciate you reading, appreciate you listening, appreciate you watching. We'll continue the improvement series. Maybe Greg, well, should I let Greg do BAM with you? Probably. Anyway, follow me at Brady Hawk 305. Me and Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. Have a good day, everybody.